favor of question 2 to repeal 40B.
Excuse me, Bob. Mr. Chair, excuse me. Just to clarify what I said, I may have confused public. I would be voting yes.
To repeal it.
Yes.
Bob, just as a point of information too, the original estimates for the 40B project over on Lowell Street estimated 27 kids. 27, not 9.
Well,
I
the estimates I
think-
had heard was around,
I think that the count is up as a result of the economic situation, too.
No, but when it was originally proposed, the whole thing, when they did all the demographics and what was going to, with the 25% being affordable, again, only 25% of those units over there are affordable. They estimated 27 students coming into the school system at the time.
However, the apartments there count 100% as affordable, and as a result, the town currently satisfies the requirements of 40B. And I guess I'm looking at it from the point of view, I didn't like 40B from the point of view of we had to fight and kind of control it. There's been a few developments I think are in the wrong place. But now that we're up to our 10%, and although we'll have to make an adjustment soon, it's a small adjustment. We were at 2% just a couple of years ago. And I hate to let all the other communities off the hook. You know, we've done our job. Therefore, I will be voting no on question 2.
Just in relation to Michael's point, I don't necessarily want to debate, but as far as, the local zoning that we get to bypass has nothing to do with wetlands and things of that nature. And I agree, a lot of what's left to develop in North Reading is marginal property. But that's not the portion of the zoning bylaws that they get to bypass. It's basically density that they get to bypass. Just how many units per acre do they get to build on, as opposed to what our zoning bylaw calls for. It doesn't bypass any of the environmental issues that have to be addressed or stormwater management.
Okay.
Question 3, the big
Can
one.
I take the lead on that, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Question 3, the big question, and the impact. It's estimated that somewhere in the vicinity of 30% cut in state aid will result in passage of question 3. In other words, reducing the sales tax from 6.25% down to 3%. In the case of North Reading, we receive approximately $8 million in state aid. Almost $7 million of that is Chapter 70 for schools, and the balance is unrestricted state aid and a few other small items. So if you take the 30% of the 8, you're talking about a $2.4 million cut in state aid. And I started to think about that from the point of view of, if it occurred, we've already started talking about a contingency plan. What would we do? This morning at our financial planning team meeting, we discussed it, and one thought would be the town would try to absorb 1.2 million, the school would try to absorb 1.2 million. So I kind of gave a little thought to, what's the a la carte menu for dealing with this? So it's not a case of, well, we're going to cut our budgets by 3% or something like that. It just doesn't work. So we have to take a look at services from, a more global point of view and prioritize them. So, for example, we could close the library. We'd save $445,000. We could take recreation off the town budget altogether. We've been doing this slowly. There's only $110,000 left that the town is funding the recreation budget. We could go ahead with the massive chainsaw health insurance, and just skip over the collective bargaining process or appeal to our unions associated with it. And we might be able to save $750,000, but that's not something that, the flick of a finger we can do. So now we get into public safety, Public Works. We could eliminate police officers one at a time, at approximately a savings of $75,000 per officer. That's base salary, benefits, and some percentage of overtime. And we've already reduced our police force by 2 members. The fire department is even more difficult because of the structure and the way it works. We'd have to completely restructure what we're doing there, and I can't come up with a figure quickly on what that is. But you can see, doing these things don't get us to the 1.2 million. I'm skipping over the health insurance because that's not something that, you can easily do by the vote of the Board of Selectmen. School department, they are gonna be talking about this, my understanding it is at their next meeting associated with how they can shed 1.2 million and what is the impact of it. The impact is severe. And I think, the citizens of North Reading, the voters of North Reading, need to take that into consideration above and beyond the emotion of, I'm gonna save a pile of money. Because it's gonna be a major impact on town services and school services in this town. So I would urge everybody to vote no on question 3. Mr. O'Leary.
Just to follow up a little bit, one of the important things to understand is that this would go into effect January 1st, 2011, which is 2.5 months away, and halfway through our fiscal year, so that significant adjustments would have to be made in short order. And you can anticipate that state government, the legislature, in their first month of meeting again in January, would have to address the situation, and you could count on a cut in local aid in the current fiscal year, which we have not necessarily counted on and anticipated fully, especially to this extent. And again, this is a sales and use tax. This isn't the income tax. This is based upon the goods that we buy, and it went up from 5% to 6.25%. And while nobody was happy with it, it was essential in order to close the budgetary gap that was created as a result of the economic situation we're in response to that. So, as the chairman pointed out, how would we cope? Not well. It doesn't matter. There's no good answer. There's no good way of coping with it. We would have to, but it would significantly alter the level of services that we would be able to deliver to the citizens of North Reading. So, I would strongly urge everybody to consider what we have in the way of services here in North Reading, realizing that we're not crying wolf here. This would be, the effect of this would be significant, and we would have to make some dramatic changes in the way and the level of services that we deliver that none of us, I don't think anybody in this community would find acceptable. So this is not a viable solution. It's not a good idea, and I would urge everybody to vote no.
Steve, before I let other members talk, I should have also mentioned, I meant to mention that facing our 2012 budget that we're in the process of preparing for next year, the school department has almost $1 million of one-time federal money in this year's budget. Then in addition to the normal growth, would have to be, it has to be made up. So that just exacerbates the issue that this particular change in sales tax would bring to us.
Right, so we're talking about up to close to $1.5 million just on the school department side without the reduction on this that we're going to have to address anyway.
Michael?
No, I would be understanding it'd actually be 2 million, right? Because they also have increases that they have to address,
Well,
plus
but
the
that's,
loss of.
I look at that as their normal budget growth.
Okay.
We're
Right.
talking about
But
what we have to make up to get to that
But the real dollars
baseline.
are
Yeah.
$1.5 to
Yeah.
$2 million
Yeah.
without dealing with this, and then an additional 1.2. So you're talking about, close to over $3 million in reductions on the school department side.
No, I'm obviously going to vote no on this. I mean, this would be catastrophic to not only North Reading, but to all the towns and throughout the Commonwealth. But you have to step back a little bit and take a deep breath and think about why this is even on the ballot. I mean, things are bad. People are hurting. Towns are hurting. Let's face it, we're hurting. We have 2012 ahead of us that we have to prepare for, and it isn't pretty. And so this is just a lot of frustration. We put the home rule petition in the article because we're frustrated. And it's things like that that are gonna continue to happen until level heads prevail. This definitely isn't a level head decision. So I urge voters to please vote no on this. But we also have to step back and take a deep breath and have a sip of reality. Things are not good. Our employees across the town have to get to the unions to get them to understand things are not good. And we just need to find a reasonable way to move forward and work together to address where we're at for the next several years until we can come up with a plan to help us bring new revenues into this town to help us equate for those expenses that we can't quite equate for now. So, thank you.
Jeff?
Yes. You know, this is a tough one, obviously. And, you know, I have 2 children in the school system that are gonna be affected by this. But I also have core values that I have to consider, beliefs that I've developed through the years: small government, freedom to choose to do things that you want to do. I can't, with all honesty, tell people how to vote on this question, because it's a deep and sincere issue for everybody in the Commonwealth and in the town of North Reading. I mean, I can only share my thoughts and my observations. You know, I have 2 roles I think many of us play, but you know, 2 roles I have to consider: making decisions on behalf of the town, and when I leave here, making decisions that are best for me and my family. So it's very difficult. But as Mike says, you know, there's a reason for this. You know, what's the purpose of question 3? I think question 3 is that it's to force the state to cut wasteful spending, you know, shake up the status quo, restore common sense to state spending. There were believed benefits to question 3, and I say believe because we really don't know. All right, we're getting numbers from the state what they're going to do, and I think it's somewhat sad that the state would do that and say they're gonna cut the core needs of the people before they cut their programs that appear to be unnecessary. But, you know, question 3 will increase purchasing power for mass residents. It'll help kickstart the state economy, increase job opportunities in the private sector, increase income tax revenue from the private sector, rejuvenate business in border towns, you know, around New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and there'd be no reason to go to New Hampshire because there are no taxes there. It'll also give good reason for those border towns, those people in those states to come into Massachusetts to buy our goods, therefore pay that 3% tax that we weren't getting before. It will eliminate or reduce the losses caused by New Hampshire, protect seniors from rising costs. You know, when the seniors have increased purchasing power, there's money in their pocket, and they can go out and make purchases, which would add to our taxes. It also exposes politicians by forcing them to allocate funds for infrastructure, safety versus excessive overtime, education versus benefits, government management versus spending money on inefficiencies. But there are risks with question 3 too, and I try to look at it from both sides. And when you look at it at the other side, you know, will the state continue to fiscally be irresponsible? Will the state continue to do business as usual, or not cut unnecessary programs, or not cut back on excessive programs, or not fund mandated programs? Will they continue to cut back on core services? If you look at the ads on the TV, you see that. It's almost like a threat to all of us, and it puts us on the defense. Are they going to also cut back on essential services? So these are some of the observations. This is what's out there, okay? The anti-ads threaten that the state will do so. Benefits to the question 3 failing. None's really been given, except we're going to have the status quo. There's been all negative advertising. There hasn't been any advertising that I've seen, either by the unions, by the state, or anybody, stating that, well, if we keep it as it is, we will continue to do